Eagles Talk A2D Radio. The Birds are on a roll, and we're here to talk about it. Guys, Saquon, is he the MVP? Is this defense the best we've? They're on a roll. They're insane right now. So let's talk about it, guys. If you're listening, tune in, join the conversation. Let's get it. Let's go.
You love the Eagles, let me get a hell yeah! You love the Philadelphia Eagles, let me get a hell yeah! Philadelphia!
Eagles Talk A2D Radio. We are brought to you by Baggio's Bread. Located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, home of the best stuffed breads, tomato pie sandwiches, cutlets, and meatballs. Make sure you mention A2D Radio for 10% off your in-store purchase. It's your boy Chucks, it's Brinks, and it is PY. Gentlemen, the Birds, was that 7 straight now? 7 straight. We got a good cushion on the division lead ahead of the Commanders because of their botch against the Cowboys. How are we feeling?
Fantastic.
Yeah, feeling good. Feeling
Good. Yeah, Brinks, your like levels of excitement can never show on your face, so I never know. Like when I'm looking at you, I'm like,
I'm so excited.
Yeah, that's the point of it.
Well, I'm glad we're all feeling good. The Birds are they're on a tear right now, and it's led right now by one Mr. Saquon Barkley, and I know that a lot of the conversation today was about him being legitimate MVP candidate, if not the front runner. But there are still some out there who have doubts. There are still some out there who say he shouldn't be the front runner because he's not a quarterback. They're still saying there are people that even say he's still not the most valuable player on the Eagles. So I wanted to pose the question here. Let's talk about it. Our poll question: Saquon Barkley is the most valuable and important player on this Eagles roster. Agree or disagree? Gentlemen, do you mind if I take the lead first?
Go ahead, lead off.
All right. So, again, a lot of there are people out there who still think that the quarterback should always win MVP because of the nature of the position. And I am not here to say that the quarterback in a vacuum, at face value, the quarterback isn't the most important position in football. It is. It's the single most important position in football, bar none. Absolutely, no argument there. However, that's just looking at the position and not looking at the players themselves. All right. Now, in a season like we have, it is so important to look at narratives, at how the teams are constructed, and the levels of production that these players are going at. If I'm looking at those three criteria, right? Saquon Barkley checks the boxes on all of them. Okay, so the narrative. Let's talk about narrative first, right? So he has the great story behind him in terms of not being signed by the Giants, coming to a rival team, and playing with a chip on his shoulder because he was told not told directly, but like the Giants showed him that they didn't want to pay him over Daniel Jones because Daniel Jones was their quarterback, right? So he's coming in with a chip on his shoulder. That narrative has already it's built in, it's set, right? That character arc for this season. That's a great narrative for Saquon going in his favor. 2, you talk about how the team is constructed, right? Who are they? What impact are they having on a winning team, right? The Eagles are one of the best teams in the league. They are probably right up there with the Lions, and we'll get into that discussion. But is he the one is he the most important to this team right now? I would argue yes, because yes, we have this O-line, right? We have this great O-line. The O-line has been great. Were Miles Sanders and DeAndre Swift as good as they were they doing this type of stuff behind that O-line? No, they were not. So it's not just the fact of the O-line being great. It's Saquon Barkley capitalizing on that blocking. And it's not any running back can come in and produce like he has with this O-line. It takes rare talent to be able to do what he's doing. And you look at how he does on the field, it's unreal. This is unreal talent that's taking advantage of incredible blocking in front of him. And you can't take that away from Saquon. And I've argued this since week one. Whenever this team needs something, and if you look at their identity right now, their identity is run the football. Their identity is not to take anything away from the Ravens, right? The Ravens, their offense, it's not built around Derrick Henry. It's built around Lamar Jackson, okay? But this offense, who's it built around, guys? It's built around Saquon Barkley right now. He is the engine of this offense. So if he is the focal point, if he's the reason, this is the reason why everything is going, and that leads to the third category, production. His numbers, I'm sure, like we all know this already. We've all seen it, like all the numbers that social media is pointing out there. He's setting records. He's on pace to set records. Like, this is unbelievable. We could go on for a half an hour straight just talking about the numbers, historic numbers that he's putting up. It's incredible, absolutely incredible. So I get that quarterback is the most important, and MVP has gone to quarterback. But I think the last factor that I want to throw in there is this league has now shifted to a run first. Like, the top teams in the league are running the ball, right? The Chiefs are a run first team now. They are. They're running the ball a lot. The Ravens run. They run the ball with Lamar Jackson and everyone else. You look at the NFC. The Lions are a run first team, right? The Packers have Jordan Love, but they brought in Josh Jacobs. There's such an importance on the run game now. It's not so much. The league isn't focused so much on the pass as much as now it's focused on having an incredible run game, a foundational running game. And because of that, the importance of the running back is starting to increase once again. It's cyclical. NFL is cyclical. So yes, in like the past ones, Adrian Peterson was the last one to win NFL MVP as a running back. That was 2012, 12 years ago. I think we have to start considering that that whole notion, it has to kind of like take a turn, just like the NFL is taking a turn. So I absolutely agree to the poll. I think he's the most valuable and important player on the Eagles roster right now. Yes, and that includes over AJ Brown, over Lane Johnson, over whoever, Jalen Hurts, whoever you want to put. I think he's more important, more valuable than them. It's a big statement, but I'm confident saying that, and I will go a step further in saying that he should be the MVP. All right. PY, what do you think?
So I love Saquon. I think he's such a valuable asset on this team. I think he's completely, along with him and Jacobs and Derrick Henry, have completely changed like the way NFL rosters and the way NFL GMs are going to look at the running back position. Like, they're going to show like what's going to happen when you invest assets smartly into the running back position, and especially at elite running backs like these guys. And he's made such a huge impact in this team, just as a running back and as a pass catcher and even a blocker. Like, he can do it all. With all that said, I don't think he's the most valuable player on the Eagles. I still think it's Jalen Hurts because of what Jalen can bring to you on the football field. Like, Saquon is a difference maker. Saquon is a game changer. But we've also seen what Saquon can be when he doesn't have that good quarterback, when he doesn't have that lightning rod to play with. Like, I think Jalen is benefiting a great deal of having an elite difference maker with Saquon Barkley. But we've also seen like what Saquon can be when he doesn't have a good quarterback. Like, when he has to be stuck with a guy like Daniel Jones. Like, so while you could make a very sound and reasonable argument for Saquon as the MVP of the Eagles, I would still say it's Jalen, because I still think he is the most important piece, because at the end of the day, like, everything goes where the quarterback goes. Like, if the quarterback is not able to get things going, like, it doesn't matter how good your running game is. Like, it can be stopped, because if your quarterback can't throw and your quarterback can't get the ball where it needs to get, like, they'll just they know you're running the football. Like, obviously, Saquon is going to get his. I think a large portion of the effect he's having is because he has a quarterback he can trust, and Jalen being a dual threat quarterback is opening things up for Saquon, because there are times last night where you're expecting Jalen to run with it, and he tucks it into Saquon, and Saquon was able to make his moves. Like, I love Saquon. I think he's probably the second most important piece on the Eagles next to Jalen Hurts. And as far as MVP, I do think he should be considered to be an MVP candidate. I think he's probably top 2, top 3 in the league as a possible MVP candidate right now. He should probably be closer to 1 due to what he is doing, which is historic right now. No one has done throughout how many games are we at? 11?
11
in.
Yeah, nobody in the first 11 games on a new team has put the production that he has put on the football field. Unfortunately, when it comes to the MVP talk, you're probably going to have a 2,000 plus yard season to even get close to where he needs to get to for people to consider him the MVP, unfortunately. And that's QB bias, and that's recency bias. And that's what AP had to do. He had to put that 2,000 yard. He needed a 2,000 yard rushing season to get MVP.
Before you go, Brings, to rebuttal that, I know you say that Jalen Hurts opens things up for Saquon. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think it's more
a little flipped around there.
I think it's flipped around. I think what Saquon's able to do has helped Jalen, and it's it's the running game for the QB run designs for Jalen are hit and miss. Like, defenses are preparing for that, and they're able to stop it on some occasions. You saw like late in that second quarter, right before halftime, they called 2 QB draws and it went nowhere. So like, I don't necessarily think that's accurate. I would have to disagree with that. I think it's the other way around. And I think that Saquon has made the jobs of everyone else on the field, easier. I think Saquon has made everyone better at what they're doing in this type of offense that they're running. But go ahead, Briggs. What do you think?
No, I mean it's absolutely safe. It's either Saquon or Jalen Hurts, and the reason that it's Saquon Barkley by a mile is I think if Kenny Pickett plays that football game last night, I don't think the outcome changes at all. Like, that's how good Saquon was in that game. That's how much Saquon opens up this offense for everyone. I mean, like, seriously, Jalen Hurts did fine last night. He didn't turn the ball over. He did the touchdown pass to A.J. Brown. He had a couple nice runs up the middle, and he did fine. But, like, what Saquon did last night was unbelievable. 270-plus yard runs. He had 302 yards of total offense by himself.
Yeah.
That was more than 8 teams had on Sunday, the Giants being one of them. So, I mean, like, all due respect to Jalen Hurts, like, him being out there, or whether it's Pickett, who's the number 2 quarterback, the outcome of that game doesn't change at all, because the offense is still blocking. The offensive line is still blocking at elite level. Like, the Rams' flaws were exposed last night, and I do think they are the best team in the NFC West, but they started 1-4, and I don't know if they're going to be able to overcome that. They're a finesse, speed team, and the Eagles got their offensive line and Saquon Barkley running downhill, and they kicked the shit out of them for 60-plus minutes. You could say the same thing about the defense, but the story of the game was Saquon Barkley and the running game. Like, whether it was Kenny Pickett or Jalen Hurts last night, like, the outcome doesn't change. The Eagles still roll over the Rams in that setting with how good Saquon was on that given night, and how good he's been the entire season. I mean, this is not just an Eagle. Like, Saquon's the king of the sports world right now. We're kind of in this autumn equinox. Baseball just ended, but there was a few weeks there where all 4 major sports were going on at one time. And consistently, this guy is at the top of the headlines on ESPN, on Fox News, every podcast, whether it's Philadelphia or NFL or whatever. Saquon Barkley is at the top of the list. Now, that Hard Knocks Giants not paying him, that's going to help him, and it should help him because he was told he wasn't good enough to pull the wagon in New York when he is good enough to pull the wagon in New York. You have to make minimal correct decisions with your roster construction to have Saquon Barkley be able to lead you to a playoff appearance in this NFL. It's not really that hard to make the playoffs in the NFL. Half the league makes it. So,
well, no, it's 14 out of 32. That's
basically
less than half.
Little less, but half the league makes the playoffs, generally speaking. It's not that hard. And the Giants just couldn't do it. The fact that they did it one year should have been the biggest clue ever that they should have paid this guy. And just for perspective, going into Sunday night game, and this is according to DraftKings, Saquon Barkley was 60-1 to win MVP. This morning, when I checked it, he was 6-1. So,
he's fourth, right? He's fourth behind.
I think he's third. I'll double.
Yeah, he's third now on DraftKings.
So he's behind Josh Allen and Lamar.
Yep.
I'm assuming. Yeah, that's.
If they beat Lamar, that could flip.
Yeah, I think it's going to.
Lamar's not. I don't know what's going on since we start the show, but Lamar wasn't doing anything to help his case in the first quarter. Not sure.
I think he just scored. They just scored a touchdown. He just ran it in.
Good for them.
Yeah.
But, and by the way, I have 151 odds, 151 to 1 odds ticket on Saquon to win MVP. So
MVP, yeah. It's going to take a historic stuff for him to. So
if he beats Chris Johnson's all-purpose record, I think that's MVP right there.
I think he's going to have to do that, and we're going to have to see a little bit of a little bit of struggles from Lamar and Josh Allen. Primarily Josh Allen. Josh Allen's going to have to have some tough games. But I think Josh Allen is in the driver's seat. I think if Josh Allen just keeps balling at a high level, he's going to win it. But if he starts to,
I have absolutely no doubt that Saquon Barkley is going to break every single NFL record possible this year. Whether they give him the award or not will, I guess, remain to be seen.
Yeah. I really hope so. Greg does say stop it. Brennan Pickett is not blowing out the Rams. Are you okay? So let me just say, because I want to throw this in there. You saying that is saying a lot because I know you, Brinks, you hate Kenny Pickett. When we traded for him, you were like.
But what did the quarterback do extraordinary last night to help the team win? So
I think
he didn't have.
I don't think your point is totally off base. I do want to give Hurts credit because like you said, he did not turn the ball over. And with Kenny Pickett, you never know, he could turn the ball over. And Hurts, when he had to make throws and make plays outside the pocket, out of structure, he made a couple of really good plays outside the pocket to extend. And then some throws during the middle of the field. Jalen Hurts was super efficient. I don't know if Pickett could do that. Now, do I think the Eagles could have still beat the Rams narrowly with Pickett if he were to start, considering how we dominated up front? I think it's possible. I'm not going to say it would have been a blowout or it wouldn't have mattered, but I think it's possible.
No, but you're not blowing them out. That's just not happening.
Mr. Wing says totally wrong. Jalen will always open running back lanes because of his threat to run. Miles Smith both had careers under Jalen. That's not a coincidence. Let me reiterate what I said or re-explain. I'm not saying that that Hurts doesn't open anything up for any running back. Any dual threat or a running QB is going to help in that regard for a running back. What I'm saying is I don't believe PY's statement that the reason why Saquon is doing all the stuff he does because Jalen Hurts. It's mainly because of Jalen Hurts. I don't think that's true. I think I think Saquon has helped Hurts more than the other way around. And I think, again, to my point that I said at the top of the show, it goes into their identity. Guys, remember they were struggling weeks 1 to 4 before the bye, and then they switched the line. It's now famous now. The line went to the coach and said, we need to be a run first team. So if you look at who they are the offense is running through Saquon. So that says a lot. You have to look at how the offense is running. They're running through Saquon. They're not putting an emphasis on her. They're asking Hurts to do less than what he had done years prior. So that's where my point comes in. I don't think it's all clear cut. So Mr. Les Bowen has been waiting. Les, how are you, sir?
Great, guys. How are you?
We are doing really
Doing
well.
great now.
We're doing a good discussion, and the chat's chiming in. So let's get your opinion, and then we'll get back to the chat, guys. Keep the comments rolling in. Great stuff so far today. But Les, our poll question, as I sent to you earlier, Saquon Barkley is the most valuable, important player on the Eagles roster. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, right now certainly he is. You're still not going to win anything really with Kenny Pickett at quarterback, but you're not going to win anything if Barkley gets hurt right now either, I don't think. I mean, I just don't think you're good enough to beat good teams with either of those people out. But Barkley is certainly in the driver's seat right now. He is the fulcrum, the guy that makes the offense work.
Yeah, I agree. And so we have people in the chat. Greg does say
Greg's all worked up.
Yeah, Greg's worked.
Greg's all worked up.
He's talking about designs worked out or not. The threat of Jalen's legs are such a huge aspect to this game of the Eagles' offense. Kenny Two Gloves couldn't beat the Giants. John Malmus does say Barkley MVP, and the resurgence of the running back and teams running makes teams draft different on D-line and linebacker positions. Can't draft small and fast. Gotta be able to go both ways. And he's talking similar to
being able to stop the run. Yeah, teams are going to have to. Yeah.
Yeah, ask the Cowboys how that went.
Yeah, and Greg
being able to stop the run. Yeah.
Greg
says they drafted him.
Jalen was awesome last night. He missed one throw to Goddard for the TD, which wouldn't have kind of. I'm not saying he wasn't bad. I'm not saying he was bad. He was awesome. That's what I'm saying. I think we're getting away from. I am not taking away anything from Jalen. Well, I'm trying to just make a point that
they would have had a better chance.
I think they've hit upon a sort of role for him as long as they can do this with Barkley. And it's not a given that they can do this forever and ever, against every team they face with Barkley. But as long as they can do this with Barkley and Jalen doesn't turn the ball over and is efficient in terms of it's not like they didn't throw the ball at all last night. They threw it. He had a nice touchdown pass. A.J. Brown, 109 receiving yards, I believe. They were just efficient. They didn't have to do it a lot, but when they did it well. He only took one sack. It was a bad sack, but it was early, as his sacks tend to be. And he was, very, you couldn't blame him for anything really after that. And that's kind of, that'll be enough for them to win for a while. I don't know if it'll be enough to beat a team like Detroit, but until then, this is a great formula they have. I don't want to go looking for does this make Jalen Hurts unimportant or something? Because it doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely does not. Absolutely does not. Jalen is absolutely important. I think for me, and I answered agree to the poll as well. I think Saquon is the most important right now. I think right behind him is obviously Jalen Hurts and what he does. I think Lane and AJ are right in that conversation. So it's those four. And if you want to include us people on the defensive side, you can. But they're so important to this team's success. I mean, you lose any of them, your Super Bowl hopes are drastically take a hit. No doubt. Yeah, I just think that right now it's Saquon Barkley is the guy that we are focusing on, and he's the engine of this offense right now. He's the most important player, and both on and off the field. I think Teddy Bruschi, I was listening to him this morning. He made a great point that it's also Saquon's leadership because he leads in a different way than Jalen. Right? Jalen we know is the stoic, composed. Saquon does bring that intensity, and after Kenny Gainwell scored that touchdown, Saquon was the first person to run over to him and hype him up. That means a lot. That means a lot to these players, So
Yeah.
Saquon's leadership is another thing.
That's a real good point, Chuck. I like that.
And that tells
it's
you
gonna
how
be
little he
important.
cares about the tush push touchdowns that people are making a big deal about. Oh man, you're gonna alienate Saquon. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
Saquon's
that's just
probably the
stupid. He
loudest.
doesn't care
He's probably
about
the
that.
loudest component when it comes to the tush push stuff. It's like, yeah, let's go, touchdown, woohoo!
Saquon is looking at where he is and looking at where the Giants are and thanking his bleeping lucky stars. He's not, upset about the tush push. That's just ridiculous. It's people looking for something to. There's this whole group of people in the NFL who've decided not to like that play for some reason. I have no idea. I mean, it's
Meanwhile,
not like
Brady basically did it for a decade and
yeah,
nobody
and
cared.
it's not like it's copyrighted. It's not like other teams don't do it, can't do it, or that it never fails. Sometimes it fails. I mean, I don't understand. I don't have any idea what the hell they're talking about. But yeah, that's where this comes from. It's not any legit concern about Saquon Barkley at all. But you mentioned the leadership, and I wanted to say, even though it's the offense and he's on defense, Brandon Graham going down is a big sort of blow to leadership, more than just on the field. What he gives you on the stat sheet. It's a blow to the leadership of the team and the heart and soul and the culture of the team. And I think Saquon is a big. What you just said about Saquon is a big factor there. He's one of the guys that can kind of keep that going, keep that vibe going.
Yeah, and it adds to, not to like rehash this, but like it just adds to like the blunder of the Giants organization and like why like it doesn't speak like it's what they even just did to Daniel Jones and how they pretty much like made him third string because of financial reasons, and then he requested to be released. Like, it's what does that tell your players? That like you're because of financial reasons you're willing to move on from culture guys building like cornerstone players. Like if you feel that way about Saquon Barkley, who was absolutely a building block of that franchise, and then you're going to do that to the quarterback who you paid over him, it's a really bad.
And the rationale that you're hearing now, I mean, they're all sick of hearing about it. So they come up with all these, ways of coping. And the one I saw yesterday from somebody, it was somebody reasonably famous. Can't remember who it was, but it was like, okay, the thing is, the Giants didn't have the offensive line to optimize him anyway. So he wouldn't have been doing this for the Giants. That's like saying, okay, I have a priceless antique table, but I don't really have any dining room chairs. So I'm just going to put it on the curb. And, my neighbor's picking it up and taking it into his house. Oh, my God.
Sounds fair.
Yeah. I saw that. I saw a fan. I don't know if it was anyone famous, but I did see a fan kind of made that try to make that argument on
I think
Twitter.
I think that's a much repeated argument, right? That's their rationale is that, well, he couldn't have done this for us, so what?
And one like if you had extended Saquon and just gave Daniel Jones either a 1-year contract or let him walk, you would have had more money to go out and get improvements on the offensive line. And then two, also it what's the word I'm looking for? It contradicts their other argument because the other people are saying, oh, hey, look, we got Tyrone Tracy. He's better than Saquon. Well, if Tyrone Tracy is producing, then obviously you put Saquon in there, he's going to produce too. So it contradicts a lot of stuff. But yeah, it's a bad look. But I mean,
and the Giants had guys all over the league, former Giants playing well yesterday. You might want to look at that. You might want to look at that and see how that
Barkley,
goes.
they didn't sign their safety, McKinney. He's going to Green Bay, having an excellent season. Like,
and that's something that good teams don't do. You don't see a lot of players from the top teams go somewhere else and be really good because they don't let them go.
Yeah. Yep. I know. It's crazy. It really is crazy. What was I going to say? So like that speaks to the importance of Saquon, and we all know that. And to reiterate to Greg or Tom, who's kind of like riled up over our comment about Kenny Pickett. Again, I personally want to reiterate, I am not taking anything away from Hurts. I am not guaranteeing anything about Kenny Pickett. I'm just more so talking about Saquon and how he's important. That's it. But
Right.
Now, if
want
you have to play Kenny Pickett for an extended period of time, you're screwed. You're not
Right.
going to win.
Right.
But
Yeah,
how
the
that
extended
game-
period of time is 5 minutes.
No, he can get you through a
No, he
game
can-
against the
He can
Panthers.
get you through a
or
game.
something,
He can
but,
get you through maybe
yeah.
2 games. I mean, I just don't
Right.
like extended period of time. If he's your starter, you're
Right.
screwed. You're not going to be a good team. But last night, with how that game unfolded, like Saquon, like all you needed was Saquon.
Well,
That's all you needed last night.
Yeah.
They dominated up front as well.
But here's
you
the
gotta
thing,
give
though,
those
Rob. What
guys.
we forget is the game wasn't a blowout from the opening whistle. There were points in that game where things could have shifted. I mean, that ridiculous
Maybe.
pass interference thing that led to being 20-14. For example.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like
outside of the
Yeah.
Rams going right down the field on their opening drive, nothing after that first drive had me in doubt that the Eagles were going to lose that game.
I
Well,
think it's a
the
matter.
first 2 drives, actually, they got 9 first downs on their first 2 drives. They fumbled on the first drive.
Yeah,
And then scored a touchdown on the second. And
Yeah.
that's one thing that amazes me about Fangio's defense. You watch those first 2 drives and you think, the Rams are going to score 30 or 40 points. And then they just didn't get another first down for the rest of the half.
I'm glad
Well
you
into the third quarter. I think it was 20-7 by the time they got another first down.
I'm glad you brought that up, Les, because I think that I know that speaks to the incredible coaching job that Fangio is doing.
Yeah.
And that is a huge difference. And when we hired him, this is what I'm talking about. There's a huge difference in hiring a disciple versus hiring the architect.
Yeah.
Okay, like Fangio knows his defense because it's his defense. And the difference we're seeing, one of the differences we're seeing is he is so quick to make adjustments.
Yeah. And they do a lot of different stuff.
They do.
And I am not any kind of X and O guy, but they'll be in some look that's totally different than anything that they've been doing lately. And then they'll switch back to some, it's they're very, I would not want to try to figure them out as an offense.
Yeah. They make, we usually see coordinators, they take about like halftime to make like definitive like adjustments, right? Fangio, he's so quick. He sees after the first 2 drives, he knows what he needs to do, and he makes those changes. And so like I never panic. I've gone to a point where I don't panic when I see this defense struggle a little bit at the beginning, because
it seems like
I know
they always get gashed in the run early for some reason.
Yep.
And then
It seems like that. It's almost like the same thing with the Eagles offense not starting really fast. The defense, suddenly running backs are just flying through there, and then they're not, and then it stops.
Yep, it does. So Martian does come in with his weekly questions for you, Les. So
goody.
Les says, Martian asks, what is it about Howie having success doing business with the Saints? First was Malcolm, then Sproles, then Patrick Robinson, CJ Gardner-Johnson, and now Zach Bond.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a common thread there. The guy isn't Loomis the GM there now?
Mickey Loomis?
Yeah. He wasn't there way back. I don't know how long he's been the GM. I'm sorry. But the Saints, I think it takes 2 to tango. And I think the Saints, kind of like the Giants, haven't been great at keeping – they had that Super Bowl team that Malcolm played on as a rookie. And I don't think they did a great job of handling that, keeping guys that they needed to keep. And the Eagles were the beneficiary. Robinson bounced around a lot for some reason. Yeah. He was, he just had a real good year here. Bond, that's a real interesting. CJ's been everywhere. We kind of know what the deal is there. It's his personality. Bond. That's really fascinating because it's almost like Hassan Reddick in reverse. They drafted him to be an edge rusher, and he's really an inside linebacker. And which is what the Cardinals drafted Reddick thinking he was an inside linebacker, and it turned out years later that he was an edge rusher. I don't know that there's a common thread there, Martian. I'm sorry, I can't really tell you, except that the Saints make some dumb personnel decisions, and you can see where they are as a result of it.
Yes. Yeah, we'll chalk it up to that. Just bad
When in
GMing.
doubt, trade with the Saints.
Yeah, the Saints.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, some of those were free agent signings, but yeah.
Yeah. He does also ask, what is the likelihood of Milton Williams being back with the Eagles next year?
Had a hell of a game last night, didn't he? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's pretty good. I hadn't really thought about it.
They'll probably re-sign him.
Yeah. Especially if he can play, if they stick him out on the edge for a few snaps and he looks pretty good, which might have to happen now. Have you guys talked about that situation at all? I don't want to monopolize.
Not yet. But I
want to Brandon Graham.
Yeah, they're in trouble on the edge here. That's the weakest
They
unit.
signed
EJ
KJ Henry, I think his name is.
Practice squad. They're thin. They need bodies, so he's probably just a body. It's going to be. I think it's going to be just a combination of stuff.
Oh, I assume Taron Jackson will get BG's roster spot.
Yeah. That's what I would assume too.
But
I think it's going to be
Sweat, Nolan Smith, and Jalix Hunt, and that's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's not.
Jalix Hunt is a day two. Jalix Hunt's a day 2 draft pick. So
he's going to have time
for him to. And he's had a lot of games where he's got no defensive snaps.
Well, now there's no one blocking him. Now you don't have a choice. But he's a day 2 pick, so he's sat there. Yeah. He's watched. They developed him. Seems like that was their plan from the beginning. So it's time for him to step in and do something.
I just think that
physically, he's a pro.
As great a year as Howie has had. We talked about this going into the trade deadline. I was surprised. I wasn't like, oh my God, what the hell? But I think everybody was a little mildly surprised that they didn't find somebody out there, just a rotational pass rusher, a guy that could play a dozen snaps a game, competently. I really expected that. I would have put money on it almost, and they didn't. And, just like the ball finding the worst fielder on the baseball diamond, they've got 2 edge rushers hurt now. One we don't know when he'll be back, Huff, and one we know is not going to be back, BG. So, it's that's a tough deal. It really is. It is.
I think to make up for the loss of BG, it's going to be a combination of solutions and answers. You're going to obviously Taron Jackson's going to have to call up. You're going to have to increase snaps from somewhere. Well, Nolan Smith is going to see increased playing time. Jalix Hunt is probably going to see some stuff. When Huff gets back, he's going to have to step up. They're going to probably line up some people on the outside. So you're talking about Milton Williams as a name that constantly comes up as someone they can in situations can line up out on the edge. So, line them up as at the 5 tech. You can have Bond was an edge rusher, so at certain times,
and they still use him. They still put him there sometimes in blitz situations. So you can do a little more of that, I guess. Although you really don't want to take him out of the role that he's in very much, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's it's going to have to be a lot of adjustments and a lot of things too. It's not good. There's no one answer to anyone that's listening and is trying to figure out okay, what do they do now? It's not. There's no one solution to it. It's just going to have to be a lot of schematic adjustments. Combination of things and people having to step up. That's. I mean, look at the Lions. They lost their.
They lost an even better edge rusher. Yeah.
Aiden Hutchinson, the defensive player of the year until he got hurt. He was.
But they did make a move at the trade deadline.
They did, and so we'll see how he does. But no excuses for Lions, right? They're still
right. Oh, I agree. I agree with you. Yes. So, and this is part of the game. It's part of the NFL. Every year you have to get through it.
Yeah, somehow. I did find it. There's a little bit of irony here, and I tweeted this last night. Is it's so crazy how that 2017 season, when we played in LA against the Rams, Obviously, we know what happened with Carson Wentz was on MVP run up until that point. He gets hurt, and it's funny that game it was sealed with BG. I think he had a fumble recovery for a touchdown that sealed the game for the Eagles over the Rams, and we won the division and what so on and so forth. But now it's kind of there's a little sense of irony that like we go back to LA again, we
And
win against the
lose and hurt.
Rams, and now BG is the one that's
Yeah.
the league. It's crazy, but like there's a lot. I know a lot of people were also saying like we lost Jason Peters that year, which was a big loss.
Huge
And
loss, yes.
we won it for him, and he was the one that carried out the trophy. You know, this one, and so like I know we a lot of it is just the guy's got a rally for BG now, and I know a lot of people are saying that. So, it hurts. I know like every fan. I'm sure you guys are all on social media. Everyone's saying how much we love BG, and I don't want to get into any talk about if he's going to come back because I'm sure BG doesn't even know. BG doesn't.
Well,
even know.
he did his radio show tonight on WIP, and from what I didn't actually watch or listen to the show, but I did see the social media posts, and he seemed to be entertaining the idea already. So
I'm sure.
I think it's not like he's going to be when in January or February. It's not like he's going to be like really dead, tired, or anything like that. He's going to be rehabbed and probably ready to roll. I mean, I don't know what he's going to do, and I don't know what Howie wants. I mean, if Howie's going to draft and sign for that position, it could be a little awkward, but I got to think if he wants to play next year, they'll find a spot for him. I certainly would. He's played so well. That was his best game last night. That was,
oh my God,
he was amazing.
Amazing.
I think if he wasn't okay with being a rotational piece, I think he would either retire or go elsewhere. But I think what the great thing about BG is he knows his role, he knows where he's needed, and he's not going to demand more than what is needed. Like he understands that this is where I fit on the team, and I'm okay with that. Like I'm okay with the 10 to 15 snaps a game, some maybe even less heading into next year.
Right.
I want to be a veteran. I want to be a leader on this team. I'll take my snaps where I can get them, and let's roll.
Yep. I agree.
It's a good point. It's a very good point. Yeah. So we'll see. And I'm sure I would be floored. It would be like and Les, I apologize if you have a relationship with him, but it would be a Joe Banner type of move if the Eagles were like, no, we're not going to bring BG back if he wanted.
I didn't expect that, but
I'm sure that the Eagles, if BJ wants to come back, the Eagles are going to have him back on another 1-year contract. I'd be shocked if they pulled the Joe Banner move like that. So,
those days are long gone, Chuckster.
I know. I'm just saying. So the one question I wanted to ask before Leslie goes, and this is a really good discussion point that PY, in our chat, we've actually brought this up a couple of times. Going back to Saquon real quick, he's doing historic stuff, absolutely historic stuff. I think it's obvious. I think it's clear and obvious that the moment Saquon signed that pen and paper and played his first game, he was already the most talented and best running back in franchise history in terms of just talent and ability. I don't remember seeing an Eagles running back, and you guys know Westbrook is my guy. He is. I named my son after Westbrook. Okay, so he is my guy. McCoy is looked at as another person who's a GOAT. I think Saquon Barkley is more talented than any running back in franchise history. When we talk about greatness and legacy, that's a different thing. You have to talk about accomplishment.
When you talk about greatness and legacy, all of a sudden you got to put Steve Van Buren in there, who won back-to-back NFL championships, which is going to be hard for Saquon to do, frankly.
Absolutely.
But that's kind of like comparing Wilt and 50 points a game to players today. I mean, was Wilt really that much better than them? No, but he was that much better than the people he played against, which I think is really the yardstick for everything,
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you, again, when we can revisit this in the offseason after what happens, but do you guys think it's very possible that Saquon can accomplish enough in the next few years to be considered the greatest Eagles running back in franchise history? And what roughly would that take for him to be the unanimous greatest in Eagles history? Les, what do you think?
Well,
Not that much, frankly. It doesn't take that much. In fact, somebody with the Eagles made the point to me when Shady was still here and Shady set that record. It was like, Shady's great. Don't get me wrong. It's wonderful that he's got the record. But if you look at other teams' rushing records and ours, a lot of teams have had guys that played there a lot longer and gained a lot more yards than our rushing leader. It was, Wilbert didn't have that many years. Van Buren was in a different era when they played like 11 games or something, and then they had a bunch of guys who were really good, but weren't Hall of Fame players, the Deuces and the Ricky Waters and the, guy, even Brian Westbrook, not a guy you'd put in Canton. I mean, a wonderful player, probably more talented as a receiver than really.
He was hurt too much. But
not a long prime for Brian Westbrook at all. Yeah. So, they don't have. There's nobody. McCoy is. And McCoy, he should have had 3 or 4 more years here, and that would have given something
people don't
to really
realize
think about.
People don't realize it, but in terms of yards from scrimmage, and I always bring this up, yards from scrimmage leaders career for the Eagles, Brian Westbrook is still the leader. He had 9,875 scrimmage yards, so he is still the all-time yards from scrimmage leader for the Eagles. So if I'm comparing what yardage if I'm going to look at what Saquon has to do to get reasonable, he's never going to catch that in 3 to 4 years. But what they're going to have to what are the averages that he's going to need? And I think from my perspective, I think on just roughly looking at it, if Saquon plays 3 to I know his contract is 3 years, right? But if he's playing at a high level, I think they would add another year on maybe. But if he plays at least the length of his contract, which is 3 years, if he continues to have near 2,000 yards from scrimmage, so maybe I'll say around 1,800 yards from scrimmage each of those 3 years, and if he has significant playoff performances, if he's having performances in the playoffs where he is winning games, he is balling out, and to top it off, if they win a Super Bowl with him, I think if you put all that together, that happens for Saquon, I think that books it easily. I think
that's
easily.
I agree. I agree with you. With Westbrook, the yards from scrimmage thing, it's significant that's the yardstick, because I think I said here before, he and Marshall Faulk were the only 2 running backs I've ever seen who really ran. Not just you could split them out wide, because they do that with a lot of running backs, but they would run the pattern like a wide receiver would run it, and detail the route and all that stuff the way that a wide receiver. They were wide receivers who could also play running back, and that was really Westbrook's value. And Barkley isn't
before C-Mac.
Yeah,
he was.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, he's like that too. Yeah. So but it wouldn't take that much. I mean, it's a very low yardage total, frankly, for running back and for yards from scrimmage.
Yeah,
I mean, you guys are talking about sheer numbers for a resume, but for me, if he rushes for 2,000 yards and the Eagles win the Super Bowl this year, you can just put him right.
Yeah, it's hard to overlook that.
Well, I will say, Chuck, one thing, I don't want to rain on your parade, but workhorse backs that get the kind of load that he's getting this year, the next year tends to not go the same way. He gets hurt or, things just aren't quite as special. It's just hard to do that as a running back.
Very, very. Yeah. And I think that's where Saquon would have to prove he's just out of a different breed, because I think if you look at, for example, Derrick Henry right now, he's 31? He's hardly he's off, right? Even in his worst years, he's still putting up crazy numbers.
That's very good.
Saquon,
and with that gut, he'll be head to head.
Getting the most carries every year since he was 16 years old. as a senior, didn't he have like 700 carries or something as a senior, which is like malfeasance for a high school coach?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's like, it's, if you look at an average running back, it's a very tall task to ask to expect them to consistently put near 2,000 scrimmage yards every season. But again, we are looking at someone whose the bar is higher. You're talking
And
about,
behind this offensive line,
yeah,
right now, I think he and Henry lead the league. And I think it's Saquon #1 and Henry #2 in yards before contact,
yeah,
which is a very nice. I mean, it's a running back stat, but it's an offensive line stat. He's getting to the second level untouched so much. And
yeah, absolutely.
that really cuts down a lot on the wear and tear.
1,100%. And he was a guest on the Pivot. Saquon himself talked about it. He wants to, because I think he was, because Fred Taylor, a running back who should be in the Hall of Fame. Fred Taylor was one of the traditional, back in like the early 2000s, one of those running backs who did play up until like early 30s, and still produce at a high level, right? Like, that wasn't that out of the realm of possibility for these high end featured backs to play into their early 30s and still be productive. So Saquon touched on how, like, he still wants to show he has years left before he hits that wall. So I think he can do it. It's a tall task. It's gonna take a lot to do that. But if there's anyone that's gonna do it, I think it's Saquon.
Agreed.
I think it's very, very possible. Les, again, as always, thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure. Good to see you again. See you next Monday.
Yep, and happy Thanksgiving.
Yes.
We are, from us on the show and ATD Radio and Pete and Tom, we are so grateful that you come on with us every week, and to share your knowledge and to be able to have this platform with you. So from all of us, thank you so much for taking the time with us and gracing us with your presence and insight. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank everybody there, and have a great Thanksgiving, guys.
You too, Les.
Thanks, Les.
That is Les Bowen. Bowen on the Birds. Always a pleasure. God, always Les is really one of the best, we always have him every week, and I never want to take that for granted. What he brings in, he's not like a lot of the people in the media these days who might lean toward hot takes and all that. He's really one of the most even keeled and objective Philly media people that I've had the pleasure of looking up to. So always good to have him here, guys. We have about 8 to 10 minutes left. Anything else from this game that you want to highlight, focus on, give props to for the Eagle side?
Secondary is really deep.
Yes,
really deep. Like, Darius Slay didn't even play majority of the game. I don't know exactly when he went out with the concussion, but really didn't miss a beat.
I think early third quarter is when he went out. So
relatively half the game.
Yeah, half the game. Yeah.
And Isaiah Rodgers came in and did fine. And they had Tristan McCollum.
He did fine. I don't think that one
great.
That
I didn't say he was a superstar. I said he did fine, which is an adequate assessment of how he played. Yeah, obviously, we want Darius Slay back. He's been really good this season, even though I'm still mad at him for going on that podcast with Michael Parsons. Always will be. But
go sit in your little corner. Who cares?
I mean, just speaking the truth. Speaking how I feel.
It's not truth. It's what you feel.
All right.
How is it not true? How is it not true that he went on a podcast?
Moving past that, yeah. Isaiah Rodgers, yes.
It's not my feelings. That's a stone fact that happened. It was on the internet.
Yes, that did happen.
All right, so Isaiah
How
Rodgers.
did I make it up? Like, I didn't like it.
Anyway,
Isaiah Rodgers. Hopefully he can play against the Ravens because he's had a good season.
Yeah.
And then Tristan McCollum comes in and he shuffles some things around because, you're down a guy, and McVay's a genius. Stafford's a good quarterback. They weren't able to expose it. Like secondary is really deep. A lot of these other good Eagles defenses, they were predicated on getting sacks to help
Pass rush,
their
pass rush,
secondary.
pass rush.
This team is kind of the opposite. They get coverage sacks. They get, the secondary puts pressure on the receivers to get open, and they can't always do it because they're really good, and that creates success for the pass rush, which there's more than one way to skin a cat. I don't know which one's better, but this version's working really well, and it's because the secondary is really deep, and that's a credit to Howie Roseman recognizing that the secondary was not good enough last year and putting a lot of resources into making it better.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's also a testament to how well they're taking on this system, because there's so much communication involved in running this system, and they're doing it so well. Like you're talking about, like knowing what zone exchanges to do, knowing how to transition from one coverage to another. They're doing an incredible job. So, and they're a lot. I mean, you're talking about Q and DeJean. They're young guys. They're young guys that are doing. They're not veterans. They're rookies. So incredible job by them, and of course the linebacker duo, Bond and Dean, incredible. Blankenship's balling out. CJ Gardner Johnson, ever since the bye, has been balling out. He's a lot of the coverage issues and tackling issues that he had early in the season. He's corrected them. He's been so good. So I love that the back end is playing really well. Absolutely playing really well. PY, any final thoughts on the game?
I mean, Nakobe Dean just continues to be a baller. Like Zach Bond, he's not getting enough money. Can I extend him twice over at this point?
I'm kind of upset how he hasn't extended him already.
I know he's not a huge extend him in the season type of guy, which I don't agree with, but whatever. Jake Elliott, bounce back game. You needed it.
Well, he didn't kick him as many long field goals.
Yeah, but like you want to get that momentum. You want to make it good in his head.
Confidence. I wouldn't say momentum, but I'd say confidence. Yeah, you want to get him his confidence going again with chip shots, so that he gets gets into a groove, I guess you could say. So yeah, good to see him not miss any kicks. I mean, there's not much left of the game. I think we touched on
Kenny Gainwell.
Kenny Gainwell with a really good run. That touchdown run, good for him. Glad that's his first touchdown of the season. So definitely good for him.
How many real contenders do you guys see across the league?
5.
Okay, I'm at 4. PY?
Probably 4.
All right, say your teams.
So Eagles, Lions, Bills, Chiefs.
Yeah,
whoever wins this game on Monday night would probably be my 5th. Even though I feel great about putting that winner of this game on Monday Night Football right now in with those other 4.
Okay, I mean that's fair. I obviously my 5th is going to be the Ravens. I think that they absolutely could do it. I think if you were to power rank them, they'd absolutely be 5. They'd be the 5th out of those compared to those other teams. So I definitely hear that. I think the Ravens are clearly flawed on defense, specifically in pass defense. It's pretty bad. So when you get to playoff time, these top teams are going to attack them that way. So absolutely, I understand that, and I don't blame you two for not including the Ravens in the conversation. I think for me, I personally have faith in the offense, specifically Lamar and Derrick Henry, that I think that they could just run over people in January. So I'm still going to include them, but I don't blame you guys for not. I get
so
it.
Basically, the point is like there's 4 legit contenders that all 4 of us agree on, and the Eagles are one of them.
Yep.
That's fantastic. And I really don't see I don't really see next week being a problem for this team. I really don't. I was way more nervous about last night than this week. Dude, the Ravens, this is not a hard hard-nosed, blue-collar, hit-you-in-the-mouth Ravens team that we've seen in the past. Their defense isn't good.
Yeah, their defense is not good. Yeah.
It's really not. And Roquan Smith, he's not playing right now. Who knows if he'll be healthy against the Eagles? But
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he's out today.
If
Yep.
they don't have Roquan Smith either as a mark for either Jalen or Saquon, that's substantial. That's a huge,
but let's
huge,
see how we go against Derrick Henry. Like having to stop a guy like Henry is a tall task.
It is. So yeah, I think to Brick's point, I think it's their offense is definitely something to take note of, and not be scared of, but like you're gonna have to respect them. You know what I mean? Like that offense is legit. It's the defensive side is where like that's where you have confidence. Like we literally could do whatever we want. Their run defense isn't horrible, but compared to our rushing attack, obviously we're going to take our rushing attack all day, all night. And so if we have that advantage and we're able to expose them through the air as well, I don't see how their defense stops us. So maybe we see a shootout early on and it comes down to turnovers in the second half or Saquon putting it away in the second half again, like he has been. So I agree, Brinks. I think that the Ravens can be had. I'm not going to guarantee anything because again, at any given week, any given Sunday, the Ravens have the players to pull off a win against us. So I'm not even gonna. And we're in Baltimore, so it is a road game for us. So I'm not gonna
second straight road game. Those are traditionally very tough for no matter who it is.
Yeah,
and no matter who the opponents are.
I still think it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a tight game. I could see a possibility of us losing. Would I be panicking if we lost? No, because I still respect this Ravens team enough. So I think it's fine. We just lost PY, but we're at the end anyway.
And the division's on lock.
Yeah,
as long as you don't have
a collapse like last year, right?
as long as last year doesn't happen, you're fine. You're gonna have a home game. Yep. Maybe you get the 1 seed, maybe you don't. I don't know. But yeah, your division's on lock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we got the Ravens on Sunday. But before then, Brinks, you have a good Thanksgiving. Enjoy your
too,
holiday.
my man. You too, my man.
Make sure you
wish
eat
there
a lot
was
of food.
I wish there was a little better slate for us on from the NFL standpoint. Kind of stinky.
I'm probably gonna skip that 4:00 game. Maybe just have it in the background. But I'm probably not gonna watch that one.
No, night game's all right.
Yeah, the night game is fine, and traditionally usually is. So, I'll obviously be watching the noon game and the night game. I'll definitely be watching. So, but yeah, to those of you who are still listening, thank you again for the support and happy Thanksgiving to all of you as well. We at A2D Radio are very thankful for all of you who continue to support us and tune in and have all these discussions with us throughout the year. Your support is not forgotten or taken for granted. So thank you for everything you've run and contributed to us at this A2D radio station. For myself, Brinks, PY, who we lost connection with, Pete, and Tom, and all of us at A2D Radio, we thank you. And go Birds. Happy Thanksgiving. Peace.